Hi, everyone. I'm Brielle Fink, and this is my final CHS 211 project. So, today I'm going to be talking about the correlation between health and traveling. And I became interested in this topic because I'm studying abroad next semester, and I was kind of curious about what health risks are associated with studying abroad. And so, in today's society, there's an advancement, or with the advancement of technology, traveling has become super common and it's increased a lot. And there have already been numerous of studies done that show the risks of traveling. And these risks, they can damage a traveler's health or they can interfere with one's safety. And I just wanted to do a project about that and see what kind of health risks are out there that are associated with traveling. And with this project, I just began to explore different kind of health risks. And yeah, so this leads me to my question, which is what are the risks associated with traveling and how can they be reduced? And in my paper, I sort of split them up into different sections. And the first one I talked about health risks, and sort of um, this was about the infectious diseases that are associated with health risks and how easily you can become sick when traveling. And I also found that with an increase traveling, there's also an increase in stress and BMI, and there's also diminished self esteem, which I thought was really interesting. And then the next topic was safety. And with this, I sort of talked about just like means of traveling and how a traveler is kind of like a target for violence and for theft and stuff like that. And for the second part of my question, to how can these risks be reduced, I mainly focused on this new thing called travel medicine. And this type of medicine is specifically um, towards travelers, and it specifically focuses on just travelers' health and health insurance for people when they're in foreign countries and stuff like that. And when I started this project, I had many assumptions, or back up a little bit. All of these results that I found, they were all supported by the peer-reviewed articles that I used, and I used all those examples to further my research and come to these conclusions. And so my assumptions going into this project, the first one was that I assume that violence towards travelers is a concern. Just sort of crime and just petty theft and even violence. I think that tourists are a target for stuff like that. And I used a quote from my research project, and it says, violence against foreigners has always been a concern. And I went on to talk about an example that says this article published in 2016 goes into detail about why travelers are targets for diseases, injuries, violence, and attacks. And this article reveals that there has been an increase in politically motivated attacks on travelers by 50%. So I thought that that was sort of interesting and supported my assumption. And my second assumption was that in general, travelers are unprepared. I think that a lot of people go into traveling and think it's this great thing, and they don't really take into consideration what they're putting themselves at risk for. And so the quote that I used from my project was, from these statistics, the study further investigates the students by asking them about their preparation for the abroad trip. The results were astonishing and revealed that 3/4 of the students sought no pre-travel health advice, while almost half of these consultations were non-professional. So this article was talking about a study done about study abroad students. And this sort of shows how study abroad students are unprepared. And even if they do get pre-travel health advice, then it's unprofessional and it's just really not helpful. The third assumption I had was that traveling frequently can negatively affect the overall health of a traveler. So, just sort of with my travel experiences, I just have noticed that I become sick when traveling, or I feel really stressed. And this study done, the quote that I used was from a study done about business travelers. And so I thought that it was interesting. It says, from this study, it was revealed that there was a positive relationship between amount of international travel and body mass index. So just sort of the more a traveler traveled, then the higher that their BMI was, which I thought was interesting. And then continuing on with this quote, it says, furthermore, according to Burkholder, there was consumption, sleep deprivation, and diminished confidence. And so I think all of those things can really contribute to the overall health of an individual. And when it came to erasing my own opinion, I tried hard to not write about my own experiences of traveling. I left out all personal accounts and avoided using the word I. And I actually originally, when I submitted it, there was a lot of first person, which I wasn't really considering. But then I went back and I tried to use more general statements about the studies or about the paper in general. And as you can see with these quotes, I sort of just used terms like throughout this paper, this literature review, and the results of this literature review to just generalize it a little bit more and make it a little bit less personal. So the implications of my finding. A lot of factors play into the health and safety of travelers. Some of these factors include like the length of a trip and the destination, the behaviors while traveling. There's just a lot of different factors that can go into the health and safety of travelers. But on the positive note, health officials are working towards a more sustainable and healthy way of traveling by acknowledging a growing number of travelers and a need for a new branch of medicine. So this is really great that it's being acknowledged and that travelers are able to travel more safely and able to get the health care and insurance that they need. And continuing on, my recommendations and applications. So I think that it's a good idea to extend these studies of analyzing traveling. That way, all types of travelers will be able to better understand their risks before their journey. And so what I mean by that is I think that there should be a lot more studies done. I think the biggest factor would be destinations. I think that would probably be the biggest determination of a traveler's health, but that doesn't mean that we can do more studies about the preparation and analyzing the behaviors of travelers before and during their trip. And applications. So I think my literature review would be applicable on travel websites or maybe even during study abroad seminars. And I think this review could be used by anyone who plans to travel. And just so travelers are, they just have a better understanding of what they're really getting into. And yeah, that's my presentation. So thank you so much for watching.